Thanks for calling Toyota. This is Jan.
Hi, Jan. My kids are really excited about spring break, so I'm looking for a new Toyota to help make it amazing.
Now until April 1st is a great time for a new Toyota. Imagine you and the kids in a Tundra on your way
To the lake to go speedboating.
or even taking a RAV4.
To an animal sanctuary to pet goats.
Sounds like your kids aren't the only ones excited about spring break.
Ready, set, go get your Toyota today. Toyota, let's go places. Dealer inventory may vary. See your participating Toyota dealer for details.
Hi, this is Ben, Sam and Harry from the Late Breaking F1 podcast, and you can follow this year's Formula One season with us on the Sports Social Podcast Network.
We're here every single week to bring you race previews, reviews and our opinions on everything from the F1 world, with plenty of fun along the way.
Listen to the Late Breaking F1 podcast now wherever you get your podcasts.
The Two-Footed Podcast is brought to you by EPLindex.com and our presenting sponsor, Liberty Shield. Liberty Shield is a VPN provider. A virtual privacy network allows you to go online, change your location, access things you're geo-blocked from, while keeping your data safe. So, as an example, if you are a UK expat and want access to BBC iPlayer to watch Match of the Day, or ITV Hub, or all four, but you get that message that says this content is not available in your location, a Liberty Shield VPN gets you around that block, allows you to watch whatever you want on those services while also keeping your data safe. And it goes further than that. It allows you to open up Netflix's entire library by just changing your IP address. Liberty Shield is the #1 rated VPN provider on Trustpilot with 5-star ratings across the board. So go to libertyshield.com right now, use the code EPL25 and get either the hardware package or the software package. The hardware package is a router that you plug into your existing router, and any item you want to change the IP address on, be it your phone or your television, you connect that to the new Liberty Shield router. All other items can remain connected to your existing router. There's also a software package, which is instantly downloadable to your device and you can get using straight away. Again, libertyshield.com, EPL25 for 25% off at checkout. We're also brought to you by Home of Hopcroft, a giftware and homeware company located in Scotland but shipping worldwide. Check out homeofhopcroft.co.uk and do check out the EPL Index and Anfield Index shops, which you'll find on Etsy. Use the codes EPL10 or RED10 for 10% off at checkout. And lastly, do remember to check out A Tad Predictable, hosted by Tadiwa. That podcast is on this feed before every Premier League match week. And then the EPL Roundtable, hosted by Kevin DeVries, on its own EPL Roundtable feed. So just search EPL Roundtable in your podcast device. And that's out after every match week. Now, on with the show. What's good, boys and girls? Two-Footed Podcast. Today is Monday. It is the 11th of March. This might be a bit messy because I am getting my ass kicked by a bout of vertigo, and every so often things just spin. So I may have to patch this together if I have to have a little break or whatever. I'm also having to do this without headphones. Because part of the vertigo is quite severe ear pressure and the headphones are not helping. So, it's going to be a little bit awkward. But look, I'm going to try and get through it anyway. We'll start with the 9 Premier League games that we had at the weekend, the first of which was Manchester United 2, Everton 0. This was one of the worst games of football I've ever seen played in the Premier League. And I'm not saying that in an effort to be funny, or because this is two teams who are rivals of my team. It was a genuinely atrocious game of football. Bruno Fernandes opened the scoring on 12 minutes after Alejandro Garnacho was brought down in the Everton penalty area by James Tarkowski. No doubt about the penalty. Stonewall, absolutely. Bruno steps up and scores. Bruno almost made it 2 with a great free kick that Jordan Pickford did really well to claw out of his own net. And then Marcus Rashford doubled the lead from a penalty after Alejandro Garnacho was again brought down in the Everton penalty area, this time by Ben Godfrey. And again, absolutely no question, Stonewall penalty. But that's all that really happened. There was about 25 minutes in the second half where it looked like both sides just stopped playing, where United realised they didn't need to score again, and Everton realised they probably weren't going to score, and they just sort of meandered through the game. And considering both of these teams still have stuff to play for, in United's case, they're still hoping that they can sneak into the Champions League, though it's very unlikely. But in order to do that, they're going to need to build up their goal difference, which through 28 games is 0. For Everton, they're trying to stay in the Premier League. Now, they do have a 4-point cushion on Luton, but Luton have a game in hand. And Everton may well have a points deduction coming. And now so may Forest, but Forest are only 1 point behind Everton. So it's really hard to understand the lack of urgency from Everton. Even the substitutions that Dyche made in the game just didn't scream to me of a manager wanting to win the game. Like, he brings off Michaelenko, he brings on Ashley Young. How does that help? He brings off Beto, he brings on Dominic Calvert-Lewin. He brings off Garner, he brings on Andre Gomes. I think he brought Andre Gomes on for Doucouré, actually. And he brought Lewis Dobbin on for Jack Harrison. The one attacking change he made was Chermeti on for James Garner. And he made that change. No, sorry. Ashley Young came on for James Garner. Chermeti came on. So that's a sideways move. Ashley Young came on. Chermeti came on for Michaelenko in the 88th minute. So every one of the subs he made, the first 4 subs, were nothing subs that weren't improving the team or changing how they were going to play, other than getting a little bit more culture into the midfield with Gomes, who rarely plays. And the one attacking change he made in the 88th minute. Like, there's just a distinct lack of ambition in all of that. And Everton had plenty of shots and they had opportunity, but they never felt like they were going to score. And it's now 11 Premier League games. I think 11 Premier League games without a win for Everton, which, I mean, you deserve to go down if this is what you're doing. Yeah, 11 Premier League games since they beat Burnley away on the 16th of December. And it's not like they have a hugely easy run-in, but they do have favourable home games. So they go to Bournemouth, to Newcastle, then Burnley home, to Chelsea, Forest and Brentford home, to Luton, Sheffield United home, away to Arsenal final day, and there's a Liverpool game to be rescheduled in there somewhere. And realistically, if they win 3 of those home games against Burnley, Forest, Brentford, and Sheffield United, they'll probably stay up. Now, the points deduction could change that, but we'll have to wait and see. But all in all, just very, very disappointing. You would have hoped to see a bit more life in them, but it almost feels like they've just accepted their fate, which is bizarre because they're not even in the relegation zone, let alone confirmed as having gone down or anything like that. Crystal Palace won, Luton won. Palace will be furious if they let this one slip. Jean-Philippe Mateta scored on 11 minutes to put them ahead. They probably should have doubled their lead at varying points throughout the game. Luton didn't offer a huge amount, But in the 96th minute, Cauley Woodrow glances on across and it beats the goalkeeper, and in it goes, and it's 1-1. And Luton escape with a point, and they'll be thrilled with that point, but Palace will rightly be fuming. Palace are 14th in the league. Realistically, they're not going to be in any danger. It's a big point for Luton. It ends a run of defeats. I still think they're going to go down, unless big points deductions come in for Forest and Everton, which would give them a good chance, but it's a good point, and they should be very happy with how they've performed in the Premier League this season. Bournemouth 2, Sheffield United 2. Gustavo Hammer puts Sheffield United 1-0 up on 27 minutes. Jack Robinson makes it 2-0 on 64. Bournemouth had missed a penalty when Solanke slipped and skied it over the bar. And it looked like Sheffield United were going to pull off a really, really good win. But Ouattara scores on 74, a free header, dreadful defending. Enes Unal equalises on 91. Bournemouth, to be fair, deserved the draw, probably deserved to win. They did miss that penalty after all. 32 shots, 12 on target, 70% possession. Massive credit to Ivo Grbic, who really did earn his wages and was just let down by very, very poor defending in front of them. So for Bournemouth, it's a disappointing draw at home to a bad team. They stay 13th in the league. For Sheffield United, it's a point. It's point number 14. They'll be hoping to continue to grind out points. They did concede less than the 2.7 goals per game that they were averaging, but it's still nothing to cheer about. You still conceded 2 and it should have been 3, but Solanke skied the penalty. Moving on, Wolves 2, Fulham 1. Rayan Aït-Nouri opened the scoring, and a Tom Kearney own goal on 67 gave Wolves a 2-0 lead. Alex Iwobi pulled one back. I thought Fulham had spells in the game where they looked the better team, but I never felt like they were going to trouble Wolves all that much. Like, a lot of their good stuff just sort of stopped 20 yards from goal. Just kind of ended there. I thought Wolves got really, really big performances out of their entire back four. Semedo, Santiago Bueno, who's a Uruguayan centre-back they brought in the summer, hasn't played a whole bunch. Max Kilman, obviously, and Aït-Nouri was outstanding. João Gomes and Mario Lemina also played very, very well. One potential downside, we may have another injury to Pedro Neto, which would be pretty disastrous at this time of the season. But Wolves will be happy enough. They are 9th. They've gone ahead of Newcastle, 2 and have a game in hand. Fulham are 12th. They're a point behind Chelsea. Chelsea have 2 games in hand on them. The game tonight against the Toon, and then that Spurs game that was cancelled because of the League Cup semi-final. The League Cup final. The League Cup final. Moving on. Arsenal 2, Brentford 1. Some controversy in this one. Arsenal go 1-0 up on 19 minutes through Declan Rice. It's a good header. Brentford equalise in stoppage time at the end of the first half due to Aaron Ramsdale looking like a fella that hasn't played a whole lot of football. Ball played back to him, plenty of time. He just dallies on it. And by the time he goes to clear it, Vissa has closed in on him, blocks the clearance, and it rebounds into the net. Kai Havertz booked in the first half. Potentially lucky to just get away with a yellow card on that one. Second half, about 65 minutes in, Kai Havertz drives into the Brentford penalty area and flings himself to the floor under no contact, no challenge. Should really have been booked for a second time and thus sent off. And he goes and scores the winner on 86 minutes. Now, Arsenal rode their luck in this game. They were the better team, which you'd expect considering where they are and how bad Brentford are. But Aaron Ramsdale made 2 absolutely phenomenal saves to keep them at 1-1. Havertz header, I think the goalkeeper should do a bit better, but Havertz wins the game for them in the 86th minute, and Arsenal go top Brentford stay 15th, and they're still going to be a little bit nervous. Now, I don't think they're going to be dragged into the relegation mess because they do have a 5-point lead and a better goal difference than Luton, because Everton and Forest are likely facing points deductions, and because Burnley and Sheffield United are hopeless. I just don't see Brentford getting pulled into it. But it's a very, very disappointing season for them. On to Sunday, where we had 4 games. We'll start with Brighton against Nottingham Forest. Andrew Omobamidele with an own goal from a Brighton set piece. That is really all that happened in this game. Verbruggen made one good save. Sells made one good save. And to be fair, Morgan Gibbs-White played 2 or 3 absolutely outrageous passes. But it was quite a dull affair. Brighton, they'll be thrilled with the win because obviously their form has been so hit and miss. They are 8th, 1 point behind West Ham, 5 behind Manchester United. Only 1 ahead of Wolves and 2 ahead of Newcastle, though. Forest, they are 17th. It is 4 defeats from 5. They are 3 points above Luton. They are slightly better off in the goal column, but they could be facing a points deduction. So we'll wait and see what happens with them. West Ham 2, Burnley 2. Not really sure how West Ham got themselves into this mess, but they were very fortunate to get a draw. They could have won the game. They did have a goal disallowed, but also they very much needed Burnley to just do Burnley things at the back. David Datro Fofana scored a worldie on 11 minutes to put Burnley 1 up. Mavropanos put through his net just before half-time to put Burnley 2 up. Paqueta pulled one back just after the break. I don't even know how to describe the Burnley defending. Then Danny Ings had a goal disallowed, and then Danny Ings scored and rescued the point. West Ham will be furious with themselves. That's a really good opportunity to keep pace with United. They'd have been 2 points behind, but they'd have had a 3-point gap on Brighton, and they've thrown it away. Burnley will be happy with the point. It brings to an end a run of defeats, but that's like Sheffield United. You're 2-0 up. You need points. You need wins. Draws are going to do nothing for you at this stage, and they've just shipped it like so. Yeah, it is what it is. Aston Villa 0, Tottenham 4 at Villa Park. Pretty even first half. Second half, an arse kicking for the ages. James Maddison makes it 1-0 on 50 minutes. Really nicely worked move by Spurs down the right-hand side. Good cross in. Maddison gets in the end of it. 1-0. 53 minutes. Typical Spurs counter-attack. Son feeds Brennan Johnson. Johnson finishes well. 65 minutes, John McGinn with one of the most brainless challenges you're ever going to see. He comes across, Adoiji's dribbling in his own half, knocks the ball by McGinn. McGinn, for some reason, decides to just kick through his legs. It's as clear a red card as you're ever going to see. Off goes McGinn. Now, at that point, you think, right, Villa, just don't get hammered here. Just, batten down the hatches. Try and sneak one on a counter if you can, but let's not concede another one. 91 minutes, Son makes it 3. 94 minutes, Timo Werner makes it 4. Villa just all at sea. Absolutely all at sea. I didn't understand why Emery went with a back 3. It felt like that really handed the advantage to Spurs from the off. It was a very strange decision. Now, I'm not certain of this, but I had a Villa fan say to me that he thinks it's the first time they've played the back 3 this season. Now, obviously, they've done the thing where it's a back 4 that becomes a 3 in possession. That's not standard, but it's something they do quite regularly. If Konza plays right back, he'll tuck in and they'll go Konza, normally Diego Carlos, and then Pau Torres, and then launch the left winger Ford because the left back Ford is a left winger because they play with a right winger, and often Ramsey on the left will just tuck in field. And what they end up with is a back three, a double pivot in front, then a line of four, which is generally Diaby or Bailey, McGinn, Ramsey, and whoever the left back is, or sometimes McGinn is on the right, which just doesn't really work all that well. But Tielemans will be one of those middle two, and you'll still have the left back as a left winger. Now, McGinn obviously has been playing a bit more on a double pivot since the Boubacar Kamara injury, and the McGinn-Douglas Luiz double pivot doesn't work really all that well. But it was just strange to see them start a back five. And it was a back five. Like it was full backs, not wing backs. And it was just really strange. It just felt like he handed the initiative to Spurs from the off. It's a really good win for Spurs. They're now 2 points behind Villa in the battle for fourth. Spurs have a game in hand. That game is against Chelsea. They also have a better goal difference. Both teams have scored the same amount of goals, but Villa have actually conceded less goals. Now, again, they've played a game less, but 2 less goals conceded, and they're playing Chelsea in that game in hand, and Chelsea don't score a whole lot. So, yeah, that battle for fourth is going to be interesting. If I had to bet, I think I'd bet on Spurs. Though but both sides have to play each of the top 3. So both sides have tough runs, but Spurs have City and Arsenal at home and go to Anfield, whereas Villa have Liverpool at home but have to go to the Etihad and go to the Emirates. Now, both sides will have a huge say in who wins the title this year, but I think Spurs overall will come out ahead and finish in fourth. Finally, then, Liverpool won, Manchester City won. Even first half, City went in 1-0 up after a John Stones goal. Really good corner routine. De Bruyne plays it low and to the near post. Aki levers McAllister out of the way, and Stones comes in unopposed to tap home. Really well worked. The goal came slightly against the run of play. City had started well. Liverpool had come into it, were playing well. City score. But for the rest of the first half, Liverpool were the better team. The only real opportunity City had after the goal was Erling Haaland got sent through to face Van Dijk. And, I mean, that was only ever going to end one way, which was with Haaland not doing much of anything. He got a shot away, but he could have picked the ball up and tossed it to Kelleher for all the power that was in it. Second half, Liverpool absolutely dominated. City had two opportunities in the second half. One where Doku hit the post, but I think Kelleher might have got a touch to it. And the other, Phil Foden got in 1v1 and Kelleher made a great save. But Liverpool had 4 or 5 great chances, mostly falling to Luis Diaz, who fluffed his lines multiple times. Dominic Szoboszlai actually had a great headed chance first half. Conor Bradley had a really good chance first half, but opted to try and square the ball rather than shoot. Cody Gakpo had a big chance second half and made an absolute hames of it. Liverpool had equalised within 70 seconds of the restart. They had a penalty. Nathan Aki played it back to Ederson. He played it short. Nunes nips in. Ederson kicks through him. Clear penalty. Whatever. Alexis steps up and scores after a stoppage for Ederson's injury. And then, Liverpool dominated the second half. Just overran City in midfield, bullied them off the ball, sent Kevin De Bruyne home very upset. Him and Pep got into it a couple of times. Made Rodri look very, very normal, to be honest. Like, Endo and McAllister and Szoboszlai while he was on the pitch just harassed him endlessly. And he never really was able to gain control of the game like he often does. The controversy in this one comes in stoppage time. First of all, there was only 8 minutes played when it really should have been 10 or 12 because Ederson, in 2 moments of being treated and in being replaced, that's about 8 minutes by itself. You've also got Kyle Walker going down and needing treatment. That's about 2 minutes. You have another City substitution where they bring on Doku and Kovacic, so there's 30 seconds. Liverpool brought on Salah and Robertson, so there's 30 seconds. And then they brought on Gakpo, which should be another 30 seconds. So, yeah, realistically, it should have been about 12 minutes. 8 was given. Liverpool get a corner. City don't clear it. The ball goes up in the air. Alexis McAllister moves on to it. He gets the first touch to it. Jeremy Doku is out of control. He's incredibly high with his boot, and he catches McAllister around the nipple region. Now, McAllister gets the first touch to the ball. Doku then, because of where his foot is, the ball hits his foot and goes up in the air a little bit, but he is going through the air at McAllister, clatters him in the chest pretty much with full force, and somehow no penalty is given. Michael Oliver is looking at it. He can see it without question. There's no obstructed view. The only obstruction Michael Oliver would have had is he wouldn't have known who the ball touched first. But that is irrelevant. We've been told for years it's irrelevant whether you play the ball. It's what happens after you play the ball. Are you in control? Now, Stuart Atwell on VAR has looked at it and looked at it and looked at it. And then he's lied and he said that Doku played the ball first, which he didn't do. And then he said that his foot is in a reasonable position. His foot is 4 foot off the ground. And not only that, he is jumping to get that high. And then he said that the collision, the contact, was unavoidable. You know how it would have been unavoidable? If he didn't have his foot that high in the air. That is dangerous play, and that is a penalty. Michael Oliver has bottled that decision because, well, A, he's Michael Oliver and he's not very good at what he does, and B, because it's the 98th, 99th minute. If that's the 52nd minute, that's a penalty without question. Without question. And the same thing with Atwell. Well, part of it with Atwell is also Michael Oliver does not take well. It's known he does not take well to being overruled by VAR or been told, you might have got this one wrong, go and look at the screen. But he got this one drastically wrong. Liverpool have been denied a penalty in a huge game. That's the second time at Anfield that that's happened this season. It happened in the Arsenal game where Martin Odegaard played basketball. That is 4 points that Liverpool have been denied and a point that Arsenal and City have gained in those games. Liverpool were also obviously denied a perfectly fine goal at Tottenham earlier this season when Luis Diaz was onside, played through by Salah, scored, flagged for offside, and somehow VAR managed to look at it and allow the on-field decision to stand because he got confused about what he's been asked to do, which is just mind-blowing. So that's another point that Liverpool were denied and 2 points that Spurs got that they actually didn't deserve. You could say 3 points that Liverpool were denied because potentially they go on and win that game, but we'll say a point, which, you know, calls into question the integrity of this league. When we look at a league table that has Arsenal first on 64 points, knowing they should only have 63, Liverpool second also on 64, knowing they should have 69, potentially 71, City third on 63, knowing they should have 62, Villa on 55, and then Spurs on 53, knowing they should have 51 or 50. And if you're Villa and it gets to the end of the season and you lose out to Tottenham by a point, and you know that that point comes from a game that they won because of an enormous VAR error, well, then aren't you going to be livid? Because I know for a fact Liverpool are going to be livid if they lose out in the title by a point. I know for a fact they will. Or if they lose out on goal difference and that point away to Spurs would have won them the title. So, yeah, I mean, that's where we stand. Arsenal top on goal difference, but with the hardest schedule remaining. Liverpool second, City third. Title will be won by Liverpool or City. It just will. The title will be won by Liverpool or City. Arsenal have played the easiest schedule so far. They've had the least injuries so far. And to date, they have had no dreadful refereeing decisions go against them that have cost them points. Villa, fourth. Tottenham, fifth. United, sixth. West Ham, seventh. Brighton, eighth. Could be a really interesting battle for that Europa Conference League spot. I think United, barring... Well, I mean, they're capable of a dreadful run, but I think they'll probably end up sixth. And then I think it's between West Ham, Brighton, now Wolves, Newcastle, and potentially Chelsea for that Europa Conference League spot. Fulham will be just fine. Bournemouth will be just fine. Forest will be just fine. I think Brentford will be fine. And then it's one from three to go down. It's Everton, Forest, or Luton. One of them is going down. Burnley and Sheffield United will both go down. And that is where we stand in the Premier League. There are 10 games to go, except for Tottenham play Chelsea, Bournemouth play Luton. Now, that Bournemouth-Luton game is Wednesday of this week. So that's a big one to get out of the way. We obviously have a game tonight, which is Chelsea versus Newcastle at Stamford Bridge. That one is obviously on Sky. If you're wondering what Jamie Redknapp is going to do, he's going to talk incessantly about Kai Havertz using opinions he's nicked off people on Twitter. Yeah. Good stuff, Jamie. Good stuff. Keep up the good work. He's going to talk about Kai Havertz and how Arsenal might use him. I assume it'll be tonight. It might be in the break, but I assume it'll be tonight. He'll talk about Havertz with a view on Arsenal versus City, which is obviously coming up after the international break. Now, we do have games next weekend. There are only 4 of them, though. We have Burnley, Brentford, Luton, Forest, Fulham, Tottenham, West Ham, Aston Villa, and then we obviously have the FA Cup as well. So, title race is now on. 10 games to go, and we will see who's got the minerals. And I'll see you after this. Bye-bye. Right, welcome back. So, what I thought we'd do is take a look at all 20 teams. One player from each club who has underperformed expectations this season that the clubs need them to step up if they're to secure their, stated goal for the year. So for Arsenal, stated goal is obviously winning the league. They need Martinelli to step up massively when he gets back. So obviously, it's been a tough season for him. He had a great year last year, and he still provides a valuable service to the Arsenal team as an outlet. But when you consider last year he had 15 Premier League goals, this year he has 6. That's disappointing. Now, of course, there is the chance that last year was an outlier and that 15 isn't something we're going to see from him on a regular basis. But I think he's got the talent, the finishing ability, and most importantly, the desire to be a regular goal scorer. He's so quick. The issue I have most with him is I find he's a bit too frenetic, and everything's done at 1,000,000 miles an hour, and he still hasn't figured out how to slow the game down for himself. So that's the concern I have with Martinelli. But I think there's a chance that when he comes back, that we see more of the Martinelli we saw last year. Now, it's a slight knock. I don't think it's anything too severe. I'd imagine he's back, maybe even for the Porto game. Actually, let's check Premier injuries and see if there's anything there. Because I think when we looked at it on Friday, it was kind of touch and go. He's got a slight cut on his foot. So, I mean, they've got Porto in the week. It may well be that he was held back for that one. Manchester City, funnily enough, staying in the same position. I think Jack Grealish, who has been dreadful this season, but he offers them an extra bit of control that I find that they lack sometimes, especially when it's the Bernardo KDB pairing in midfield with Rodri. They're a little too loose with the ball sometimes, and they just sometimes need someone they can give the ball to who can slow the game down and win them a free. So I do feel like Grealish is somebody they need to step up. We'll see if he's capable. He's been largely a disappointment since joining City, but he did have that good run at the end of last season, which coincided with them putting together a really good run, which ultimately won them everything. I'm going to come back to Liverpool. That's why I've skipped them. Aston Villa number 4, I think Jacob Ramsey. I know he's had some injuries, and that's largely the key issue here. But he was so good last season, and I thought he was a near certainty to make the England squad for the upcoming Euros, given what he put together last year and the year before, to be fair. He'd had 2 tremendous seasons back-to-back. This season, 1 goal from 15. It feels like he's not as impactful on games. It feels like there's just something lacking. And funnily enough, he plays off the left. And we're going to stick on the left because Brennan Johnson is the one I'd look at for Tottenham. They paid 40 plus million for him. And of late, he's had, a couple of really good performances and a couple of big goals. But overall, I just don't feel like he's lived up to the price tag. Again, there's been some injuries. But again, I think we need a lot more. We're sticking on the left wing for the next one. Marcus Rashford. I mean, this is a dreadful, dreadful campaign from a player I think is one of the more talented players in the league. Every time I watch him play now, I'm just left wondering what exactly is going on. He gets his goal at the weekend and doesn't really involve himself in the game other than that. So a lot more needed from him. From West Ham, I think it's Naif Agard. I think defensively, they've just been really disappointing this season, conceding 49 goals. You've only got Bournemouth have conceded the same. Palace have conceded less. Brentford have conceded more. Forest have conceded, Everton have conceded less. Forest have conceded 1 more. Luton, Burnley, and Sheffield United. That's one of the worst defensive records in the league. And it's a very expensively assembled defence when we look at the costs of Agard, Zuma, and Mavropanos. Now, for me, I'd like to see them give Mavropanos and Agard an extended run. They didn't play well together at the weekend, but they haven't played together a whole bunch. Zuma has been really poor. I don't really expect much more from him these days, to be totally honest. He was so bad last year in the league that I'm really looking at Agard and thinking he's the better of the two anyway. I think he's the one that needs to step up. Brighton, if he wasn't injured, it would be Matoma and we'd be back on the left wing thing. Lewis Dunk. I think Lewis Dunk's had a really poor year. I think he just looks error prone. He looks slower. He's not as good on the ball this year as he has been in previous years. I think Lewis Dunk needs to step up through the remaining 10 games if Brighton are to secure European football again for next year. Do you know, with Wolves, there's nobody that really stands out to me that's been a big disappointment. But I do feel like there's 1 or 2 players who can step up big time between now and the end of the season. Matthias Cunha would be one. he was a little bit inconsistent for a spell this season. Now, we know the threat he carries with his pace and his dribbling and his finishing ability, but I do feel there's more to come from him. So I'd point at him. Newcastle, it's Sven Botman. Last year, they were the best defensive team in the league. He got injured, missed a bunch of time early this season, hasn't looked close to the same since coming back, and they haven't been anywhere near as good defensively. Last season, across the entire campaign, they conceded 33 goals. Sorry, 33 goals. With 10 games to go this year, they've conceded 45 already. That's not good. Chelsea, it's everybody. Every single player at that club. None of them escape this, bar Petrovic, the keeper. Petrovic, whichever. Either way, everybody else is the answer there. For Fulham, I don't think there's anybody that stands out that's been disappointing. I think Adama Traore could offer a lot more off the bench, so I'll say him. For Bournemouth, Ouattara, I was expecting a big season from him. He really impressed me at the back half of last season. Now, he's not a starter this year. I don't really grasp why, but he's the one that I think can step up. Crystal Palace, the goalkeepers. I feel like both Johnston and Henderson have been a little too error prone this year. So the goalkeepers is who I'll go with there. For Brentford, it's Ivan Toney. You missed over half the season. You've come back. You've put in some fairly poor showings. It's time to step up, especially if you want to earn your move. For Everton, it's everybody. Absolutely everybody. Bar Jared Branthwaite. He's been excellent. And to be fair, no, I take it back. Not everybody. The goalkeeper and the defence, they've been fine. Everybody else in midfield, in attack, Onana has been really passive for the last number of months. He's the one I'd mostly point at, but the strikers, the wide players, they've all got to improve. Nottingham Forest. I mean, it's harsh because he's had a couple of injuries and he's missed big chunks of the season, but they really need Awoniyi to start scoring some goals. They really need him to find some form. Luton, I'm going to give them all a pass because I think they're performing at maximum capacity. I don't think there's anyone in that Luton team who's got any more to give. For Burnley, some of the young attackers have been really good, but I would say the collective defensive group all need to get their act together. And at Sheffield United, it's exactly the same. The collective defensive group, including the goalkeepers, they all just need to step up. Like, that's embarrassing. 74 goals conceded through 28 games. Like, that's really, really poor. Really, really poor. So that's what I'll go with there. We'll take another break. We'll be back with the gossip. Right, welcome back. So, madness in Serie A. Roberto D'Aversa, who was the manager of Lecce, has been fired for headbutting Thomas Henry of Verona during a game on Sunday. They both received red cards for their part in the incident, which took place as tempers flared after the final whistle. And the Lecce boss has admitted his actions were inexcusable. He was relieved of his duties today. Tremendous stuff. And yet, when Alan Pardew headbutted David Myler, he didn't get sacked. All he got was a 7-game ban. On to the gossip then. Newcastle have discussed the possibility of signing Pedro Neto with a fee of 60 million, thought to be enough to sign the 23-year-old Portugal winger. He would fit well into their team, to be fair, although Liverpool are also interested. Tottenham have begun discussions with Son Heung-min over a new deal and are confident an agreement with the South Korean can be finalised in the summer. David Moyes has spoken to family members of Dominic Solanke about a possible summer move. Now, that's nonsense from football transfers, so, probably just made up garbage. Arsenal, Manchester United, Newcastle, and Chelsea are all interested in Luka Netz of Borussia Mönchengladbach. Saudi Pro League clubs are preparing to offer more than 100 million to sign Kevin De Bruyne from Manchester City. Okay. I don't think he'll have any interest, but okay. Bayern Munich, he's also like very pale and ginger. They have a bit of heart. You can't be bringing lads like him to the Middle East. Bayern Munich have added Roberto De Zerbi to their short list of potential successors for Thomas Tuchel, but Xabi Alonso remains their first choice. Michael Edwards is close to agreeing a senior role with Liverpool owners Fenway Sports Group, which would see him take control of Liverpool's football operations. This is the ideal hiring for Liverpool. Chelsea are one of several clubs tracking Nico Williams of Bilbao. Chelsea are willing to accept an offer from Roma that is lower than the 37 million option to buy. I think they're just so desperate to get rid of him at this point. West Ham could target Emile Smith-Rowe in the summer transfer window. Yeah, I could see it. Arsenal are monitoring Douglas Mendes, who is currently on loan at Red Bull Bragantino from Red Bull Salzburg. The Gunners and Newcastle are interested in Ousmane Diomande, but both clubs are waiting to see whether Chelsea make an expected 69 million bid for the 20-year-old. He has an 80 million buyout clause and Sporting won't accept a penny below it. Jamal Lascelles has triggered a one-year contract extension at Newcastle by playing a certain amount of games. And hilariously, you had the typical Newcastle shills, dreadful gang of lads, making out that Lascelles has been anything other than awful for the past 3 years. England midfielder Phil Foden is set to begin talks with Manchester City over a new contract that could make him one of the highest earners in the club. So obviously he'll be getting a position as the CEO of an Abu Dhabi-based whatever, snowmobile rental factory, ice drilling company, whatever the case may be. City are the latest club to be linked to Pedro Neto. Manchester United want to bring in a young left-back in the summer and will draw up a shortlist once their new board structure is completed. That is amusing for a couple of reasons. Number one, they bought Terrell Malacia not all that long ago, who is a young left-back. Let's just check his age. Terrell Malacia is 24, maybe not the youngest, but still young. And also, in the summer, if I'm not mistaken, Manchester United sent a young left-back to Benfica, who was very highly thought of. And if I could think of the kid's name now, it'd be great. Manchester United left-back, Benfica. Alvaro Fernandez Carreras. Yeah. Meant to be very, very highly regarded. And yet United binned him off. 20 years of age. United got him from Real and were uber excited to have done so, beating Barcelona and Man City to his signature. And yet they just decided to get rid of him with an option to buy for 6 million. So who knows what goes on in the heads of people at Manchester United. United are also hoping to land Lenny Yoro. Won't happen. Donny van de Beek is expected to return to Manchester United this summer after failing to impress on loan at Eintracht Frankfurt. Mohamed Salah says Jurgen Klopp leaving Liverpool will not affect his future. Tottenham are considering rivaling Arsenal and Chelsea for Nico Williams. Spurs are confident about Heung-min Son or Son Heung-min. contract talks between Conor Gallagher and Chelsea have stalled because of financial issues at the club. But isn't that a surprise? Liverpool and Arsenal have stepped up their interest in João Palhinha, but Bayern also retain an interest. Now, Tuchel is leaving, so we'll see if Bayern still do retain interest. Liverpool are set to confirm Michael Edwards returning to the club this week, with Richard Hughes joining as sporting director. Not overly thrilled with that, but as long as he's not in charge of recruitment, we're fine. Bayer Leverkusen coach Xabi Alonso turned down the chance to become Pep Guardiola's assistant at Manchester City, when Mikel Arteta left to join Arsenal. Okay. Brentford will need to lower their asking price for Ivan Toney to keep Arsenal and Chelsea interested. Do these people read these headlines before they put them out? Please lower your price, otherwise we won't be interested. Like, wait, fuck. AC Milan are keeping tabs on Tosin Adarabioyo, who's out of contract this summer. He'd be a really good signing for anybody. Paris Saint-Germain are ready to pay 170 million to sign Lamine Yamal, who's 16. Now, I know he's special, but Jesus wept. Newcastle have been offered the chance to sign 19-year-old Ivorian midfielder Mario Dorgelis from Nordelsjand. He's meant to be very talented. I can't say I've ever seen him play, but he is highly regarded, so we'll see. Manchester United co-owner Jim Ratcliffe is set to approve a bid of more than 100 million for João Neves, who's exactly what United don't need. Like, he's a better version, but him and Kobe Manu are very, very similar. They're very, very similar. The club that actually needs João Neves is Chelsea. João Neves is the perfect partner for Moises Caicedo. But to do that, they need to sell Enzo. And the problem with selling Enzo is they've barely amortized anything off his transfer fee. So there's no point in selling him, even though selling him and buying Neves would actually improve their team. United will do anything possible to sign Harry Kane should he become available this summer. I have doubts that he will become available. Luis Enrique seemed to confirm Kylian Mbappe's departure from PSG after he wished the 25-year-old all the best for his future after starting him on the bench for a 2-2 draw with Reims. Luis Enrique is an idiot. Roberto De Zerbi, Julian Nagelsmann and Ruben Amorim are candidates to replace Jurgen Klopp. Joshua Kimmich is yet to hold contract talks with Bayern. He has less than 18 months left in his deal. He's been linked with Manchester United, Manchester City and Liverpool, and we can guarantee that with Liverpool back, there will be absolutely no interest. With Michael Edwards back at Liverpool, there'll be absolutely no interest. Arsenal are willing to sell Kieran Tierney in the summer, but the Gunners want 20 million for him. I don't see them getting it, to be honest. Chelsea are yet to make a decision on Conor Gallagher. Chelsea could look to sell as many as 15 players in the summer. Let's see if they list them. AC Milan are in talks with Arsenal over move for Jakub Kiwior. No, they're not. Manchester United intend to treble the salary of Kobe Manu. Now, bearing in mind, he's 18. He's probably been earning about $2,000 a week. I'd imagine he's going to want more than treble, genuinely. So, you may get your hands in your pockets there, lads. Right, let's have a look. The 15 players that could leave Chelsea in the summer. So this is written by some fella called Oliver Jones. So let's have a look. Mark Cucurella, they'll take a huge loss. Thiago Silva, he's on a free, that's fine. Trevoh Chalobah, he'll bring in decent money, but not as much as he probably would have brought last summer. Don't imagine Malang Sarr will bring in a huge amount. They signed him on a free, so it's all profit. Conor Gallagher, they kind of need him, but yeah, whatever they get for him is profit. Carney Chukwuemeka is an interesting one. Certainly think a lot of clubs will have interest in him. He's a very talented young player. There are, however, questions over his attitude, and he is on $100,000 a week, and nobody else is going to be willing to pay that. And given he's got, I think, 5 years left on it. What was a 6.5 year deal when he signed it? Or 6 year deal. I think he's got 5, maybe 4 years left. Either way, they're going to have to give a chunk of the money they get for him to him. Noni Madeki, again, very talented. Definitely think clubs will have interest. Not sure how big the fee would be that you get for Noni. Not sure who would be interested. Like, I could see a lot of clubs wanting him, but the question is, can those clubs afford what Chelsea would want to make it worthwhile to actually sell him? You know, because if they're asking for 45 million, let's say, which is what they paid for Cole Palmer, like, how many clubs can realistically afford that? You're looking at a small handful. And do those clubs have need for such a player? It's the same thing with Chukwuemeka. You know, there will definitely be clubs interested, but I have doubts that the clubs that are interested would be willing to pay the type of fee that Chelsea will want. And also, everybody knows they're desperate, so teams will lowball them. Raheem Sterling, I'm not sure where he goes next. He'd have to go abroad. Like, I can't see him moving to another club in England. Kepa, there'll be little to no value in Kepa. Ian Matson, I think he's got a 30 million buyout. I don't think anyone's going to offer it. I think they'll offer him on a low ball. Lewis Hall, we'll see. Like, it's a weird situation with what's going on at Newcastle. But he's super talented. I'd love him at Liverpool. Hakim Ziyech, don't imagine there'll be a ton of interest. Don't imagine they'll get big money. It will be minimal interest in Lukaku and a fee well below what they originally wanted. David Datro Fofana, if I'm Burnley, I'm trying to keep him on loan for another year and doing an option to buy if they come up automatically. And Armando Broja. And again, he falls into the category with a lot of these others, where there'll be clubs interested, but he has been injury prone. He doesn't have a particularly good goal scoring record, but he is only 22. So you'd give him the benefit of the doubt in that regard. But, you know, the loan to Fulham hasn't really worked out. Rodrigo Muniz has taken the spot. He scored 6 goals in 32 games for Southampton in 21-22, played only 12 games last year, 13 games this season for Chelsea. In those 25 combined games in the league, he scored 2 goals. In 37 games in all competitions, he scored 3 goals. I just don't know what kind of interest he'll have. There will be clubs that will take a look at him and like what he offers, but are they willing to commit big money to him? Or are they more likely to say, look, we'll do a loan with an option to buy that can become an obligation if he hits certain metrics? It's hard to see how much money comes in from that group. Right, folks, that'll do. This has taken a long time to record. I do apologize if it sounds jumpy or badly cut, but I'm literally in the horrors here. So I will see you all tomorrow, hopefully. If there's no pod tomorrow, it's because this has just not gone away. And doing pods with your eyes closed and trying to glance at things to read them is difficult. So, yeah, there is that. I will see you all as soon as possible. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.
Social Podcast Network.
Don't you love an extra $100 in your pocket? Have a TurboTax expert file your taxes for you by March 31st to get $100 back instantly. Because no matter what moves you made last year, TurboTax makes them count. That means getting $100 back and 100% accurate taxes only from Intuit TurboTax. Must file by 3/31. Credit only applicable to federal filing fees with TurboTax full service. Offer can be modified or terminated at any time.